low vitamin D levels are significantly associated with longer time to fall asleep, excessive daytime sleepiness, and underlying conditions in sleep restricted individuals. So that's interesting because I know years ago I was vitamin D deficient and my sleep was worse. Now, granted, I had other issues too. I want to make sure you and I talk about the gut a bit, but years ago, it's interesting to think that my low vitamin D levels could have been a contributing factor to my sleep problems.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, a variable. There's a lot of other issues too. I mean, the first thing that we're going to look at is we're going to look at circadian rhythm. So we're going to test cortisol levels and rhythm. We're going to see it throughout the day because one of the biggest things that happens the more stressed and inflamed you get is you get either a flattening of the cortisol or you can get a flattening with an increase at night. And that can make it really hard to relax, really hard to settle down. Obviously, the flattening throughout the day can cause lower energy the first half of the day, as well as a flat mood, right? Because cortisol is a glucocorticosteroid. Gluco meaning pertains to energy and stress. Corticosteroid meaning inflammation. So it's a natural anti-inflammatory. So yeah, if we don't have that nice arch of cortisol in the morning, energy can be low, and that nice drop at night really helps us relax. So yeah, it's one of the first tests we're going to look at. And then, of course, we know melatonin is made from protein. It's nice to see what's happening with the protein side of the fence because if we don't have good, just stupid things like, hey, I'm vegan, vegetarian, I'm not eating enough protein, or I don't have enough hydrochloric acid or enzymes, or I have chronic gut issues like SIBO, IBS, H. pylori, gut bugs, and that's maybe creating a bottleneck and also creating inflammation in the gut, which is then moving through the tight junctions into the bloodstream, move its way to the brain. That could affect the brain inflammation, HPA axis function. That's brain talking to the adrenal glands, and that could affect everything for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when I had gut infections, my sleep was disturbed sometimes just because of pain in my gut. I mean, so how many people have IBS that also have sleep problems? I can tell you it's quite a lot, and we work with that all the time. And another thing, too, is the parasites. I mean, some argue that parasites are more active at night. Some people report crawling and other weird sensations of parasites. And I will tell you, with stealth infections, like Babesia, for example, which is an intracellular parasite, Babesia causes major problems with sleep. In particular, it'll cause night sweats. So some women think of it as hot flashes, but it could be Babesia. And unfortunately, I've had a lot of tick bites over the years. And I can tell you with personal experience with Babesia that it would cause me to wake up at about an hour or two after I went to bed. So if I went to bed at 9, I would be up by 11, sometimes sweating, sometimes not, but I would just be wide awake. It was almost this infection was driving some sort of cortisol response. So after treating these type of infections, usually the sleep problems go away. And then, as you mentioned, we could supplement amino acids in the meantime, especially because if someone has gut issues, we know they're not going to be synthesizing enough serotonin from their gut because the vast majority is made in the intestine. So if you've got gut bugs and you don't sleep well, you got to fix the gut bugs if you want to sleep well. Can you supplement melatonin and 5-HTP? Yes, and those are very nice natural things, but they're still band-aids. They're not root cause. So like you said, a stool test is something that could be in order, a urine test to look at the brain chemistry too, because we could see dopamine and serotonin levels. And then you mentioned cortisol, which we could do via saliva or urine, and we could see those inverse patterns. So another thing I want to mention is like Relora. Relora is like a patented version of two different barks. There was one paper on it that it reduced cortisol levels by about 18% in 4 weeks. Now, I don't recommend if you have sleep issues just to go take this. You want to test, not guess. So I don't think it's wise, and I'm sure you would agree, for people just to go take things that affect cortisol without knowing what you're up against. So I think it'd be better for you to try to get some data first. So don't assume that because your sleep sucks that you have um, a cortisol problem, because sometimes we'll test people that are wired at night and surprisingly they have low cortisol. Maybe it's just emotional stress or something else, but it's not a cortisol problem. And then sometimes people feel okay, but at night for some reason their cortisol levels triple what it should be. And then that's where the nutrients come in to help move it in the right direction.
100%. There's